Welcome back to another episode of Drunk Bible Study Bonus Edition. We are starting Judges, and I did not want to look anything up and kind of spoil myself, considering that what we just talked about in the previous episode was a bunch of recap again, surprise, surprise. So I had my colleagues look some stuff up, and they are going to talk to me about it. So what did you all find about Judges?
Oh, I was waiting for your colleagues to show up. I guess you meant us.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You two. What else are you to me? I mean,
nothing but colleagues,
nothing but
That's
apparently.
it.
Jeez.
A great many things. Okay, great many things, but colleagues, yeah. By all means.
Sure. Should I start out
Yeah,
with
do
some
it.
things? I think maybe we'll just kind of jump back and forth
Yeah,
with
love
some
it.
things. We both looked up
Okay.
slightly different things about this, but we kind of want to go over what the biblical judges are and what the book of Judges is all about, right? Just kind of generally. So here's some things that I learned. So first of all, let's talk about timeline. So the events in the book of Judges, at least according to Bible Timeline, Bible Hub, Bible Timeline. And there
What is that
Timeline?
website exactly?
Bible Hub is the website, and it's their Bible timeline.
Okay, it's not Bible Hub,
Okay.
BibleTimeline.com.
No, BibleHub.com/timeline? Yes. BibleHub.com/timeline. There's, scholars disagree slightly about things, but I found this one is a nice summary because it goes year by year and then also shows which events and which books happened during those times. Here's what's interesting. So the events in Judges, according to them, happened between 1118 and 1375 BC. Well, I guess I should say that the other way around.
Yes, you should.
Happens between 1375 BC up to 1118 BC. Right? So basically, if I go back to this and kind of compare to what we were talking about in Joshua, it's pretty much the last thing in Joshua is 1375 when Joshua dies, and then Judges picks back up from there. So yeah, it's kind of seamlessly carrying on in the timeline. And I guess that means covers the course of, 260 something years total?
Can I just ask, getting to or is 0 supposed to be when Christ was born?
I mean, that's
So is it
how-
1375 and then it's going to decrease in number
yes,
until we get to 0 and then it'll increase in number as we go from there?
correct.
Is that how that works?
Correct.
Cool.
That is how the calendar was originally set up. And the date of Christ's birth, most scholars agree was not at 0 these days. If it happened at all,
okay.
that it was not at 0. It's probably more like
If it happened at
6
all.
or something. Some people think that the figure of Jesus may have been multiple different people who've been combined into one
Whoa.
character.
Like Shakespeare.
Like potentially Shakespeare or potentially other, religious figures throughout history may have been
Whoa.
several people who were kind of combined into one story. Like King Arthur was potentially a few different people who got combined into one figure
Whoa.
historically in the folklore. Anyway,
Cool.
that's not the topic of this right now. Jesus has not
Okay.
shown up yet. But yes, the numbers are going to go down. So yeah, this is over the course of 260-ish years. Even though it was probably not written until 800 AD, so quite a bit later, maybe 700.
I also have a different
something.
timeline with
Oh, okay.
the
So what do
stuff
you
I'm
have?
looking at.
Yeah.
Well, there's debate over the timeline,
Uh-huh.
of course. So the numbers that I'm having is that they think this period of time took at least 410 years. All the
410.
events of
Okay.
Judges, at least. And that's only for treating everything as consecutive with no breaks or no time in between any of these stories.
Well, it's interesting because in what I looked up, it very much jumps around. This
Okay.
has Judges 17 happening way before Judges 5, and then Judges 9 after that. So
I
there's
see.
kind
So
of
it's
time
not
jumping
necessarily a
around.
consecutive story that
That's
we're reading here with
That's
these
what this
judges.
guide, yeah. Well, yeah, let me get to that actually real quick. So here's how this whole book's going to break down. There's 3 main sections
Okay.
to it. The first one is the
course.
prologue, which we've almost finished. There's going to be 6 more verses that are part of the prologue, but basically we're almost done with the prologue. And then there's the main text, which is going to be chapters 3 through 16, and that's going to tell a bunch of different, essentially unrelated stories about various judges, various leaders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, various leaders of the Israelite people. And then 17 through 21, so probably our last couple episodes, is the epilogue. So that's kind of how it's
Huh.
set up. There's like a prologue and epilogue, and then the main section is a bunch of separate stories, which makes sense why it could kind of jump around in time.
Right. Yeah,
Interesting.
and so from what I'm reading, there is also debate around like what is actually the role of these judges. You know that
Yeah,
at this
Yeah.
and that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, that at this time,
Who-
all of the
who
different
are they?
tribes wouldn't necessarily have a centralized government necessarily, especially like now that Moses has gone and Joshua has gone away.
Yeah.
That
Died.
died.
He's gone away. He left. He's like, I'm out of it. I'm out of here.
Smashing the patriarchy.
You know, each of the tribes would have kind of just dealt with their own stuff essentially, but then it seems like potentially in certain moments of crisis or when they're being particularly oppressed by certain peoples, that then Yahweh appoints a judge who is most likely someone who was a tribal or a local leader, as that
Okay.
ended up being recognized by other tribes as being a leader, as opposed to someone who's automatically appointed to be like the leader of all Israel.
Yeah, I mean, already we've been talking about the tribes and like the decisions they make, but not talking about the actual people who are in charge of those tribes.
Yes.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. And maybe this is a tiny bit of a spoiler, but we are going to get a lady judge.
Okay, so
Oh,
let me hit you with this. According to
Excuse me.
Rabbi Joseph Telushkin, Judges is remarkable for the number of female characters who play significant roles, both active and passive.
Well, I wouldn't have
let's
gone that
count them
far.
once
I
we
would
get
not have
there.
gone that far, but we are going to get one of the official capital
Yeah.
J judges is a lady.
Yeah. Who conquers a man?
Yes.
Who conquers a country owned by a man?
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And they never let that happen again in the Bible, so
Boy. Yeah.
Dang.
we'll see how that goes down.
Yeah. So kind of related to what you were talking about, something else that I found interesting is people are pointing out that something significant about Judges is what's not in it. And that includes the Ark of the Covenant
Oh.
is almost never mentioned. And
Ugh.
the central temple and the high priest are almost never mentioned. Not completely never, but almost never.
Wow.
Which does seem to support this idea that it's like we're all kind of separate
We're all
countries
separate,
now.
yeah.
We're not really united anymore now that
Wow,
we've taken all this
fascinating.
land.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's wow. I can't even fathom that. We were talking about the Ark of the Covenant like every other verse.
Right?
For so many
It was so
books.
important.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So, okay, let me hit you with some more things here.
Okay.
So first of all, is that do you remember the Wars of Yahweh book that we've mentioned before?
Yeah, in the text it mentions some kind of random.
Yeah, it mentioned some other random
Right,
book, and
yes.
or they've mentioned a few random books. One of
Yes.
them's the Wars of Yahweh. So these stories that make up Judges were believed to have been in a previous book called the Book of Saviors, which then ended up in Wars of Yahweh, which then ended up in Judges. So that's kind of the lineage there, that even at the time of this writing, these had been put into books already, but are now being collected at this time. And then kind of the thing I thought was interesting too is there's argument about was this sort of randomly put together, or did one author with a specific like viewpoint in mind make this? I mean, it seems like modern day they've actually come back to more of like there was one author who compiled this and put it together. And what's interesting too is something for us to look out for as we're reading is that there's actually kind of in the editing there's something called the monarchist, which is usually kind of
The monarchist.
seems like pressure from the monarchy to edit the Bible in such a way to be pro-monarchy.
Yeah, that seems very King James-esque.
Well, right, yes.
Or was it even before that?
This is way before that, though.
Yeah.
This is, in 8th century or something when this particular book was being written. And it went through various editings and things like that. But so although this probably did get edited at some point in history to be more pro-monarchist, what's interesting is that it actually represents a lot of anti-monarchist views. Specifically the fact that being loyal to Yahweh is what causes people to succeed, not just being loyal to their leaders
Oh, I
specifically,
see.
because they'll have a
Right.
lot of leaders who lead them astray.
Right.
So it's really not this like all the leaders are good because they're the leaders. It's like, no, they're only good if they're following Yahweh.
Right.
And that's significant. And we haven't really seen that yet, but we're going to get to some of that. So that's
That's
something
true.
to look out for.
Wow, amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this.
Well, I'm excited about having a bunch of different stories. and a
Yeah,
bunch
you're
of
right.
different
Yeah,
characters.
that is interesting and very like different. It's not linear in any way, or maybe it is, but not at the moment.
Oh, we're
What
gonna have a
what
lot
it
of
sounds
casting to
like.
do. That's
Oh, you're right.
exciting.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm
Yes.
excited.
Yeah, super stoked
This
about
lady
casting.
judge, I'm excited.
Mhm.
Wow.
Gotta be thinking about that one already. Oh, and also Emily, since you were asking a couple episodes ago, we are gonna get to Samson and Delilah as
Oh,
well.
cool.
Oh.
It's gonna be later on in the book, but yeah, we're gonna get there.
That's
Can
awesome.
we sing this song? I love this song.
Which song?
Who's that song? Regina
Sam-
Spektor or something?
Yeah, it's Samson by Regina Spektor.
Yeah, Emily, you can sing it for us when we get to
It'll be
that.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I will definitely do that. No problem.
I'll see if I can dig up
Hello.
like a recording of you singing it at karaoke, and then.
Oh my God. Can I do it like now? Because I'm so much better than I was then.
Okay, all right. Maybe we'll look into
We'll do-
re-recording it.
Yeah, we'll do an official
I
recording.
would love that anytime you want. No problem.
Okay, cool. All right, well, everyone, we're excited to get into this book of Judges. Lots of cool little vignettes, lots of new casting. And we're excited. Please join us in the Facebook group, Drunk Bible Study Fans and Fellowship, so you can weigh in on casting. Maybe start pitching us some ideas for who you want us to consider, so that then when we get to them, we can sort of pull from that list and look at who there. We have our own list, but we would love input from you. We spent some time actually just last week putting more names on our list. So we're excited to start putting that together. And then, of course, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/drunkbiblestudy, and hopefully we can start doing more like live events and doing shows more often if we can get a little more support. So thank you all so much, and we will see you next week as we get into the body of Judges.
The body of Judges. I love it.